Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it's greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this in one go, therefore I apologise in advance if I stumble over my words going forwards, and indeed if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well, if there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it can't be helped, and hopefully it's not too much of an issue for you. Today is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel. I think I filmed something fairly similar to this in the past. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, today I'm going to be talking about the most underrated entries for each country that has participated in Eurovision in this century so far. I have the list in front of me. Yesterday I went through every song of this century so far for all of the nations that have participated, and I thought very carefully about which songs, in my opinion, were underrated. And I use a term on this channel, and also when I'm thinking about Eurovision anyway, which is an underrated gem. Now what I mean by that is a song that was underrated in the voting, in my opinion, and also perhaps the opinion of many other Eurovision fans, or a song that actually did quite well but has been forgotten about, and that's a great shame in my opinion. So I'm just going to get started. I've spoken about these songs so many times on this channel. Feel free to watch videos where I talk about previous editions of the contest. Just finished that series, as a matter of fact, and there will be links, of course, in the description to my other social media pages. Your opinions are very welcome. Feel free to leave a comment too. Beginning with Albania, I have gone for 2008, and this is a song that did qualify. It went through in 9th place from, I think it was the second semi-final, can't quite remember. It was in Belgrade that year. Alta Boca with Zemren Elame Peng, and I'm sure my pronunciation is absolutely dreadful there, but the English rough translation is Hearts Trapped in Time, something like that. This finished 17th with 55 points. Alta was 16, I think, at the time, in a black outfit, a couple of other people on stage with her, and this song, quite moody, quite dark, a hint of the gothic about it, I want to say, and at the time I just didn't think this was anything remotely interesting at all. I just sort of moved past it, and in the years since I've just started appreciating it more and more. There's something about this that I really quite enjoy. Perhaps the fact that it is a rather melancholic entry, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Alta Boca has tried to represent Albania since, I believe, once or twice, and this was on early in the running order, which is why maybe it struggled. I don't know. Certainly I don't think this was one of the favourites to win at all. It was probably 200 to 1 or something in the odds, but anyway, that is my underrated gem, shall we say, from Albania this century so far. Andorra is next, of course, a country, the only country that has not participated in a Eurovision final. They could be back within the next few years, let's hope so. Anyway, I've gone for 2008 again, in Belgrade. This was in the first semi-final, 16th place, and the song is called Casanova, and it was performed by Gisela. She was on stage with a group of other people, a group of other women. She was wearing a sort of tight, metallic corset slash dress outfit. It didn't look that amazing, but outfits don't really matter. The song itself, pure pop, really catchy, really enjoyable. I thought she performed it quite well, quite confidently, and I thought at the time, and I vaguely remember my mother saying as well, back in 2008, that this could have been a qualifier. Certainly 16th feels a little bit low for what is actually a very credible piece of music. Gisela, and it's worth saying this, has had quite the career. She is 41, and she was at Eurovision in 2002 in Tallinn. She was one of the backing vocalists for Rosa, and that is an underrated gem as well. However, earlier this year, sorry, not last year, she was at the Oscars. She performed on stage at the Academy Awards because she does the, well, she's been in loads of movies doing the Castilian, Spanish and Catalan dubs, but she does the singing voice of Elsa in Frozen and Frozen 2 in Castilian, Spanish and Catalan, and she was at the Oscars. Absolutely extraordinary. and she represented Andorra in Eurovision. It just goes to show anything can happen. She's had quite a few notable hits in Spain as well, looking at this list, which is really quite impressive. Casanova charted at number 69 in the UK as well, which is really quite impressive too. Anyway, we've got to move on. That's an underrated gem. Armenia's next. Difficult to pick one, but I've gone with their debut, which I think has been long forgotten. 2006 it was. Opened the semi-final, closed the final. Andre with Without Your Love. Quite an up-tempo number. Chorus is a little bit repetitive. Maybe lyrically it's not that interesting. He was on stage, he was wearing a jacket, group of women with him trying to tie him up, and there was a box as well with lights on it. I remember really liking this at the time. I've gone off it a little bit since. He went through the semi in 6th place and finished 8th in the final, which is not really underrated. If anything, it's a very impressive debut. But because not many people talk about it now, that's why I've gone and put it here as an underrated gem. Australia are next, and they obviously haven't really competed very much at all over the past 20 years, debuted in 2015 of course. I've gone with 2017 in Kiev. This was Don't Come Easy by Isaiah, young male performer, alone on stage. I think he was alone, doesn't really matter. His face was on the LED screen, he was on some sort of treadmill as well, or spinning table I think it was. Can't quite recall, haven't watched the performance back in ages. I think what most people remember about this song is that really bad note he did in the semi-final, I believe it was, right towards the end of the song when the pyrotechnics appeared. And he went for this high note and totally messed it up. But in the final, he didn't sound too bad. I think maybe he was a little bit nervous, but that's understandable. This song didn't deserve to do as badly as it did in the public half of the results. He went through the first semi-final. He was actually booed when he went through. He went through in 6th place, 2nd with the jury, 15th with the public, and in the grand final finished 9th overall, which is not too bad. 4th with the juries and 25th with the public. 2 measly points. That really was a surprise. And then, of course, Australia really struggled a year later in the public result in the grand final too. So, yeah, maybe some people are just still miffed that Australia are allowed to compete. I don't know. Moving on, Austria could have gone for a multitude of songs here, in all honesty, but I've gone with 2013, the song that kicked off the 2013 contest, Shine by Natalia Kelly. Now, I believe Natalia was born in America, but here she was representing Austria with a very nice, pretty bog-standard piece of music. Nothing flashy or really that memorable about it, but it was a very pleasant performance, very pleasant song. The studio version is completely fine. It finished 14th in the first semi-final, 5th with the juries, and 15th with the public, despite the fact that the public, a lot of people on YouTube doing their ratings and everything, I remember at the time, a lot of people had this ranked sort of in their top 20 for the year, but it didn't come close to qualifying at all, especially in the public half of the results. I find that quite disappointing. It's really not a bad song. It's an underrated gem. Next up's Azerbaijan. Again, in this instance, like with Australia, I suppose, quite difficult to pick an underrated song. I've gone with their debut, Elnur and Samir. Elnur would be back in 2015, of course. This song, Day After Day, essentially the angel and the devil facing off against each other. And this was in 2008 as well, Belgrade. Finished 8th, 132 points. Went through one of the semi-finals in 6th place. This was Azerbaijan's debut, and it was quite a risky entry, you know. It was quite over the top. Like I said, angel and the devil, quite high-pitched vocals. At one point, he was pouring fake blood over this woman. And yeah, it was all very theatrical, but it sort of worked. People enjoyed it, and it's really not a bad song. Next up's Belarus. I have gone with Moscow 2009. This didn't qualify. Eyes That Never Lie by Petr Elfimov. Big rock song, this, it has to be said. Bloke pretending to play the electric guitar straight out of the 1980s. A woman sort of blocked by this huge billowing sheet. And what's memorable about this performance, and if you haven't seen it on YouTube, it's worth looking it up, is one camera shot in particular. A guy right far back amongst the crowd on a Segway, and he's going full speed ahead, and he jumps off it onto the stage while holding a very expensive camera, and then pans around Petter. It's a brilliant shot. We don't often get shots quite like that in Eurovision these days. Really fantastic. There's a sort of behind the scenes clip on YouTube, which is well worth checking out. And it finished 13th in the first semi-final. At the time, I really liked it. I've gone off it a little bit since. It's been 11 years, for crying out loud. But this was a bit underrated. Next up is Belgium. And anybody who's been watching my channel for a long time will probably know what song I've gone for here. 2018 in Lisbon, Senec, A Matter of Time, my personal winner. The studio version's really good. And I know this might sound quite strange, but it's a shame that at Eurovision you are solely going off the live performance. Of course you are. It's sort of make or break, isn't it? Because even if the studio version is quality, that doesn't really mean a thing. Because if the live performance is crap, you're in trouble. And with Senec, the live performance just wasn't quite working. She was alone, she was sort of on that catwalk thing, wearing a dress that maybe wasn't the most appealing. She sounded pretty good. She was maybe a little bit nervous. I know that they had issues with the rehearsals as well. But this song, I really, really enjoy it. It finished 12th in the first semi-final, a bloodbath semi, it has to be said, 9th with the juries and 16th with the public. That's a great shame, because like I said, the studio version is good, live it didn't quite work. Next up's Bosnia. I've gone for, would you believe it, 2008 again. This was Laka. Elvir Lakovic Laka, I believe his name is, something like that. I think it was his sister on stage with the washing line and a group of women off to one side pretending to knit, and there he was hidden in this basket full of laundry. I mean, it was just quite bizarre, but it worked. People were charmed by it. This is Pokushai, which I believe means experiment, something like that. Finished 10th, 110 points, went through one of the semi-finals in 9th place. And this was just really quirky and unique and quite bizarre. And it's my second favourite of 2008. I don't really know why, because it's not incredible, but it's just a really interesting, engaging and fun performance. And I think this was Bosnia doing something a bit out of the ordinary, and it worked. Moving on, Bulgaria. Well, a lot of people would have gone with Polygenova and Na Inat from 2011, but I have gone for 2008, would you believe it? This is Deep Zone and Balthazar with DJ Take Me Away. This was sort of up-tempo, somewhat high-energy stuff, I guess. Very different from anything else that year, and very different from most things we've had this century so far. Very up-tempo, was in the second semi-final, 11th place. This finished above Sweden, did it not, in that second semi-final, but because of the way the voting was, Sweden went through as a jury favourite. But anyway, this song, it was the woman up front in that massive red dress, Johanna, I believe her name is, Joanna. She gave the votes one year as well for Bulgaria, but that's a complete side note. This song's very repetitive, that's its downfall, but it's a bit underrated because it was really different and it stood out. Lots of flashing lights, up-tempo. I'm just repeating myself here. I like it. I think it's like my fourth favourite of 2008, as a matter of fact. Anyway, Croatia. Difficult to pick one here. I've gone with 2003 in Riga. This is Više nisam tvoja. Can't remember what that translates as. I do apologise, but Claudia Benny performed it. She was sort of scantily clad. A couple of other people on stage with her. And I'm telling you now, one guy on stage, spitting image in my opinion of Perez Hilton, if you know who that is. But anyway, 15th place, 29 points. This is sort of pop with a little bit of R&B sass, and really not bad. Bit underrated. Cyprus is next. This is Christina Metaxa, 2009, Firefly, young female performer, light boxes on stage, which sort of swiveled around at various points. Vocals weren't great, particularly towards the end of the song. She was clearly a bit nervous. This is just very sweet and sort of just right for this type of singer, I want to say. Underrated, no doubt about it. Very cute and dreamy and just really quite pleasant. 14th in the second semi-final. Next up's Czech Republic. Well, I have gone with their first appearance in a Eurovision final. Gabriela Gunčíková with I Stand, 2016 in Stockholm. 25th, 41 points, all 41 points coming from the juries, a big fat 0 from the public. 9th in the first semi-final, 4th with the juries, 12th with the public. This is a great ballad. Alone on stage, looked and sounded great, and that sort of geometric pattern on the backdrop, it looked really good, it really did, and I thought this was going to do a lot better than 25th place. I was just really thrilled that this qualified, because it was a bit touch and go. The fact that this got 0 from the public, that's so disappointing, it really is. And that's why it's an underrated gem. Next up's Denmark, 2012. This was a pretty easy choice for me. The Baku contest. Soluna Samay, who has roots in Guatemala with Should Have Known Better. A sort of low-key acoustic number. She was joined on stage by a group of people, one pretending to play the cello in a purple hoodie, I believe, one sitting on the sofa, one really pretending to play the drums, absolutely going for it. This was a bit of a fan favourite, but it flopped. 23rd place, 21 points. 21st with the juries, that's really quite low. 23rd with the public, even worse. 9th in one of the semi-finals, 6th with the juries, and 9th with the public. Perhaps this was just too static, too bland, too dreary, too forgettable. People were obviously loving Sweden, nobody else stood a chance. I don't know. Next up's Estonia. I've gone with what is officially the weakest song of the 2016 contest, and that was totally unexpected coming into that year's edition. This is Play by Juri Putzman, another song co-written by Stig Rasta, who's always involved with the Estonian act these days. 18th in the first semi-final, 18th with the juries, and 16th with the public. I think a lot of people were put off by the creepy nature of the performance, maybe. He was quite nervous, smartly dressed, that sort of simple playing card trick. This was, yeah, a sort of, I don't want to use the term low-key again, but it was, you know, it wasn't super upbeat, it wasn't a ballad. It was very different, and it was hard to stage right. I've said this before, if you have a song that's not quite a ballad, not quite up-tempo, it's really difficult to stage it right in a way that people are going to gravitate towards it. And that was this song's downfall. Lots of sort of lingering gazes into the camera just didn't quite work. But again, studio version, great. Finland, Norma John with Blackbird. This is a maudlin, sad, very, very minimalistic type of entry. Blackbird was the 2017 entry for Finland. Didn't qualify. 12th place in the first semi, 12th with the juries, 10th with the public. So unbelievably, it was the juries who let this down. Male-female duo, bloke behind the piano, female doing all the work. Can't remember her name, doesn't really matter. But this was really beautifully staged, and even though it was really slow, I think a lot of people did expect this to go through. It didn't, and I was really surprised. Underrated gem, ladies and gentlemen. France. Yeah, I was torn between several. I've gone with Alma, 2017, Requiem, and this song I've put down as underrated because the juries for some reason didn't love this. 19th with them, 10th with the public, 12th overall, 135 points. She was alone on stage, beautiful performer, and the backdrop as well was really great, sort of this Paris landscape and the Eiffel Tower, of course, only building in France. But this was really nicely done. I don't think we needed English lyrics, but we got them anyway. Studio version's great. This is quite a cool, sophisticated French entry, and considering we've had Madame Monsieur and Bilal Hassani, and who was it in 2016? Amir, of course. I feel as though this one, sandwiched between all of them, has sort of been forgotten a bit. Next up, Georgia. I've gone with what is actually, I believe, their best ever result, but nobody really talks about it anymore. It's Sofonis Haradze with Shine, another song called Shine. 2010 in Oslo, 9th place, 136 points, 4th with the juries, 9th with the public, in the semi-final, one of the semi-finals, I think it was the second one, 3rd overall, 1st with the juries, and 5th with the public. This was just so good. Sort of matching the colours of the Georgian flag, white and red. She looked great. She was moving about the stage. She was barefoot, I think. and just nailing the vocals. Big long note at the end, absolutely sublime. I've liked this more and more with each passing year, if I'm being honest with you, and I think it deserved to finish in the top 10, absolutely. Juries loved it. Moving on, Germany. Roger Cicero, 2007, Frauen regieren die Welt, Women Rule the World. The only Eurovision song, I believe, that mentions Victoria and David Beckham. And President Clinton, I think. Can't quite remember. Anyway, rest in peace, Roger. Passed away several years ago. Great shame. This was classy, jazzy, big band stuff. Very different from Germany. They sent country the year before, and they sort of went for swing in 2009. But anyway, this song, 19th, 49 points. Now, I read somewhere that this was the second favourite of the backup jury. I don't know where that came from, but I remember reading that online last year, I think it was. And if that was the case, and it was a 50-50 split like it is nowadays, then Germany would have finished probably in the top 10 in Helsinki. And I think that would have been deserved. This is just really nice, classy stuff. His name on the backdrop. Oh yeah, sublime. Moving on, Greece. I've gone with Katarine Duska last year, Better Love. I was going to go with Sarbel, 2007. That's a great song. This finished 21st, 74 points, 14th in the final with the juries, and 21st with the public. 5th in the first semi, 2nd with the juries, 9th with the public. So yeah, the public really went off this, despite the fact it was a bit of a fan favourite. People loved the studio version. Very Florence and the Machine, a touch of the Lana Del Rey about it as well. The staging, I don't think was that great. All this stuff with flowers and ribbons. It was all very sort of flower power hippie stuff almost. Maybe that's not the right term, but you know what I mean. This song, it's completely fine, and it should have done better. Simple as that. Moving on, Hungary. I've gone with 2007. This was sort of lounge bar, jazzy, sort of woman performing in a smoky room sort of thing. Magdi Rusha, unsubstantial blues. The bus stop sign, carrying a suitcase. She was barefoot as well, I think. White vest. And this was always going to do fairly well. 9th place in the end. 2nd in that massive semi-final. Deserved. Really good song, really great singer. She's had a very strong career. Iceland is next. Oh, many underrated gems from Iceland. I've gone with 2013 in Malmö. This was Eyþór Ingimun Lauksson with Ég á líf, I Have a Life. 17th in the final. That's just too low for what is a cracking ballad in Icelandic. That has to be praised. 17th with the juries, 12th with the public. I thought that would have been the other way around myself. 6th in one of the semi-finals, the second one. 8th with the juries and 9th with the public. He was very smartly dressed, long hair, looking a bit like a Viking, it has to be said, but he sounded so great, and it was in Icelandic, and it was beautifully done, and the music video is quite beautiful too, and this should have finished higher, no doubt about it. Could have gone with 2012 as well. That's very underrated too. Ireland, Molly Sterling, 2015, Playing with Numbers. At the time, I didn't really think much of this. I thought it was the wrong choice, but in the years that have passed, it's one of my favourites. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. There she was, behind the piano, pretending to play it. Group of other musicians on stage, a sort of forest-like backdrop, which was really beautiful too. This was always going to struggle, though, because the public, I guess, were bored by it. It was on early in the second semi-final. Looking at the split results, 12th overall, 7th with the juries, and 16th with the public. The public let her down, and she's released a couple of good songs since. Ghost in My Bedroom, I believe it's called. That's a great song, look it up. Next up's Israel. Well, there's only one choice here. May Feingold, Same Heart, 2014. Super upbeat. Quite a deep voice, but that's not a bad thing. This was expected to qualify and do very well. Nowhere near. 14th in the second semi-final. 15th, I believe that's last, with the juries, and 14th with the public. I'm amazed, because this was one of the most energetic, lively performances we've had over the past decade, certainly in Eurovision, and it didn't come close at all to qualifying. I really wish I knew why. Maybe the vocals, but they weren't that bad. Got to move on. Next up's Italy. For me, 2016, maybe for a lot of other people as well. This is No Degree of Separation by Francesca Michelin, who's had a pretty good career so far, it has to be said. This was 16th that year. 124 points, 13th with the juries and 18th with the public. That's low. It was on quite early. She was quite static on stage, dungarees, I believe. Lots of things next to her, balloons and bits and pieces from the music video, which was quite bizarre. But this was just really quite cute again and charming, and she performed it quite well, even though she really wasn't moving too much. Great vocals, and yeah, considering that we're used to Italy doing very well, and this one didn't, it's underrated. Next up's Latvia. I've gone with 2011 in Dusseldorf. Music, Musiqq, male duo, one wearing a hat, I believe, with Angel in Disguise. This was cool pop, you know, quite smooth stuff with a little bit of an R&B beat to it. 17th in the second semi-final, 15th with the juries, and 19th with the public. I think that's actually supposed to be the other way around. Anyway, this song, underrated. It's as simple as that. I thought it was performed quite nicely. Luscious Thighs, not too sure what that's all about, but that's one of the lyrics. Lithuania, I've gone with 2010. A bit silly, a bit jokey, but fun. Opened the second semi-final. Eastern European funk by Inculto. Inflatable instruments. Why not? You can't play the real things anyway. 12th place in the end. 13th with the juries and 8th with the public. So it was the jurors who let this down, which is not a surprise. All male group, and just really catchy, really colourful, really fun. Underrated, maybe. Gotta move on. Malta. It's got to be last year. Michaela Patch with Chameleon. This was so hotly tipped. I thought it was going to be the year in which Malta turned things around in the public half of the results. Did that happen? Did it? Hell. 14th in the end, 107 points. Malta being in the final, a success anyway. 10th with the juries, 22nd. What the hell is that with the public? In the second semi-final, she burst into tears, of course. I'm sure we all remember that. 8th overall, 4th with the juries, 10th with the public. This was very modern pop, with a very striking lyric video as well. And on stage, I thought it wasn't bad. She was all in white, a couple of dancers with her, and this should have finished higher, but it opened the final. That was its downfall, maybe. Moldova, difficult to pick one. I've gone with 07. Natalia Barbu with Fight. She was wearing a very interesting leathery sort of outfit. Couple of people on stage with her. She was pretending to play the violin at the start, if you remember. This finished 10th with 109 points. It only just went through in the massive semi-final we had in 10th place, and then it finished in the top 10 in the final. Really quite impressive. This is a pretty good song, great vocals. Natalia has tried to represent Moldova since. Maybe she'll come back at some point, you never know. Next up's Monaco. Well, only 3 entries to pick from. I've gone with their most recent attempt, 06, Séverine Ferrer, the only Eurovision song to date with lyrics in Tahitian, because why not? Monaco has such ties with Tahiti, of course. La Coco Dance. Yeah, a touch of the sort of Pacific about this. And it was really not that great, but it's catchy. I can listen to it. I can enjoy it. It finished 21st in the end. Gotta move on. Montenegro, 2009 here. Ralph Siegel co-wrote this one. It's Andrea Demirovic, who did try to represent Montenegro last year, but missed out. Great shame. She had the best song in my opinion. Just Get Out of My Life. Opened the first semi-final, finished 11th, very close to going through. She was on stage with a bloke. It was all rather saucy stuff. Lots of pink lighting, if I remember. Not bad at all. But maybe some people find it a little bit creepy. Maybe? I don't know. Netherlands. Difficult to pick one here. I've gone with 2015 when they didn't qualify. Trantje Oosterhuis, that's as close as I can get to it, with Walk Along, 14th in that first semi-final, 5th with the juries. That's really quite good. 15th with the public, excuse me. This was pretty much all one camera shot. That maybe wasn't the best idea. She was wearing a mask at the start. A couple of other people on stage with her wearing relatively unappealing outfits. This was really simply done. It's a very summery sort of song, but also very repetitive. Saying that, I quite like it, and maybe it should have pushed harder to qualify. The juries loved it, the public didn't. North Macedonia, I've gone with 2009, big rock song, male group, long hair, very sort of stereotypical in terms of the appearance maybe. Next Time with Nešto Što Ostane, Something That Will Remain. It finished 10th, in the first semi-final, but missed out because of the way the voting was at the time, and I can't remember who went through instead. But anyway, Macedonia missed out, and this was pretty good. Up-tempo, rocky, and in Macedonian. Always a plus. Moving on, Norway. I've gone with 2004. This should not have finished last. It's Knut Anders Sorgen with High. He was wearing a sort of suit, in a grey suit. A couple of other people on stage with him. This rainbow pattern on the backdrop. This was in Istanbul, and it finished last with 3 points. I think they were all from Sweden. 24th place. And that's a shame. This song is not that amazing, but at the same time, it should not have finished last. There were weaker songs, in my opinion. Next up's Poland. I've gone with 06. Ik Troja did well in 2003, top 10. Didn't qualify in 06. They were joined with the real McCoy, and I believe he was the chap that was amongst the crowd. You don't often get that at Eurovision. People who are actually amongst the audience. But anyway, this was a little bit chaotic in terms of the way it was staged. The female in the group was pregnant at the time, and then of course you had, is it Pavel, his name? A sort of straggly green hair, really sort of gravelly vocals. And yeah, there was a sort of fairy tale thing to the whole performance. Let's go with that. I quite like it. It's one of my favourites, but it finished 11th in the semi-final, so just missed out. Portugal, you know what's coming. Claudia Pascoal featuring Isalda with O Jardim, The Garden. Very beautiful song with a very personal message. Isalda wrote this. Last place in the 2018 final on home soil. Outrageous. 25th with the juries, 25th with the public. I don't get it. Very beautiful song, and I thought it was staged very nicely too. Perhaps people just forgot it as soon as it was over. You can't really do much about that. You couldn't have staged it any other way, really. And Claudia, she's released some very decent music since. Moving on, so's Isalda, by the way. Romania, I was actually going to go with 2000 here and Taxi. But I've gone with 2009. This was one of the favourites, I believe, and it just finished nowhere. Elena with the Balkan Girls. Elena, fun fact, was a member of Mandinga, who would represent, not Moldova, Romania in 2012. Anyway, the Balkan Girls. My hips are ready to glow. Don't really get that. But anyway, 19th place, 40 points. That's quite low for Romania, it has to be said, even then, because they were doing quite well. 9th in one of the semi-finals, 21st. What's that all about? 21st? What the blazes am I on about there? I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, Romania went through, and it doesn't really matter where they finished in the semi-final. But, oh yeah, 21st with the juries, 14th with the public, I think. I haven't got the semi-final specifics here. But anyway, moving on. Russia. Again, really difficult to pick one here because Russia usually do very, very well. You could say they've got more overrated entries. I've gone with 05. The Belarusian-born Natalia Podolskaya. She was wearing a rather shimmery outfit and a sort of black skirt. Nobody Hurt No One. Bit of a rock song. It was on late in the running order. 15th, 57 points. I don't think it's that bad. Not many people remember it. It has to be said her English pronunciation wasn't the best. Maybe that's why it struggled a bit. I don't know. Got to move on. San Marino, most people would say this. Mi odio complice, which means accomplice, I believe. Performed in Italian, 2008, San Marino's debut, 19th in the first semi-final, 5 measly points. A lot of people really love this now. Vocals, yeah, okay, could have been a bit better. All male group. There was a woman on stage as well, sort of swaying about. Yeah, at the time, I think people just simply knocked it to one side. Now, a lot more support for it. Moving on. Serbia, Sanja Vucic here, who of course is part of Hurricane now. Goodbye Shelter, 2016. I thought this was going to do so well. Very powerful song about domestic violence, raising awareness, great stuff. 18th place in the final, 115 points. 23rd with the juries, that's way too low. 11th with the public. In the second semi-final, I think it was 10th overall, 9th with the juries, 10th with the public. Maybe the other way around, can't really remember. But anyway, group of other women on stage with her. She was all in black. She was really going for this. She's a great singer. And yeah, I really liked this. But for some reason, the juries didn't. Serbia and Montenegro, well, they've only ever had 2 entries. One was the runner-up, so I've gone with No Name, all male group, Zalviek Moja. I think one member of this group would be back for Highway in 2016. This is a very ominous, dark sort of tune, pounding the drums. Lots of, well, let's just say the Serbian and Montenegrin version of Riverdance almost in this song, sort of jigging about in a circle. 7th place, 137 points, really good. It's not really underrated, but I've gone with it anyway. Slovakia, it's got to be 2010. Horeroni, which is a region in Slovakia. Kristina Pelikova, this was tipped to do so well, and it's got millions of views on YouTube. People still love it today. In Slovakian, I thought this was going to qualify. It didn't. 16th place in that first semi-final. 16th with the juries, 14th with the public, I believe that is. Going for this sort of woody theme. A group of men surrounding her with sort of weeds and moss all over them, something like that. There was a backing singer off to one side, I'll be honest. Maybe she ruined it slightly, I don't know. The performance wasn't bad though, and it should have done better, no doubt about it. Slovenia, well. This could well be one of the most underrated songs we've ever had. It's Verjamem, which I think means I believe. Ava Botto, who was probably 16 or 17 at the time. 2012, Baku, second semi-final, 17th overall. Just don't get that. This is the sort of song that I thought was going to cruise through. 14th with the juries, 16th with the public, maybe the other way around. I do apologise, I might have messed it up here. But this song, group of women on stage with her, they were all in dresses, quite powerful, quite stirring stuff, and yet nowhere to be found in the results. I just don't get it. Spain, where do you begin? I've gone with my personal winner of 2016, Barre, Say Yay. People really thought Spain were going to do so well with this, and they finished nowhere. The live performance was a letdown. They went for this sort of neon disco look almost. There was that moment where Barre fell over, which was deliberate. Not sure that was needed. It was quite energetic, but not as energetic as it needed to be. And I think this with so many other entries over the years as well. It's a really up-tempo song, but for some reason the staging just lets it down completely. It's not high energy anymore. That was the case with Say Yay. 22nd in the 2016 final, 77 points, 16th with the public. 16th with the juries. 23rd, 10 points from the public. I just don't get that. Really surprising. I think the Italian jury gave this 12 points. Can't quite remember. Again, studio version good, live version a little bit pants. But Barre, really likeable. She was wearing a sort of gold basketball jersey, something like that. Anyway, Sweden, Anna Bergendahl. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's my favourite Eurovision song to date, across all of the years. This is My Life, acoustic, simple. She was wearing sneakers, trainers on stage, sort of a champagne-coloured dress, a couple of backing singers at the back of the stage, everybody waving glow sticks. I don't really need to talk about this. It didn't go through. 11th place, 11th with the juries and 9th with the public. Cyprus went through instead. Deary me. Moving on, Switzerland. I've gone with my personal winner, 2008. Paolo Meneguzzi, Era Stupendo, song in Italian. It was wonderful. 13th in that second semi-final. This was one of the favourites to win. He sounded pretty good. Person pretending to play the piano. A couple of other people on stage with him. Very beautifully done. Studio version's good. Live, I think it wasn't bad at all. But for some reason, people were just not voting for it at all. I'm surprised. Turkey, very difficult to pick one. I've gone with those 6. Sibel Tuzun, superstar. Disco, pop, tattooed performer. Group of British dancers on stage with her. 11th place, that's not really underrated. 91 points. Quite repetitive, in Turkish and English. Just really fun and up-tempo. Ukraine, Tina Karol, 2006. Give Me Your Love. She looked sublime on stage, it has to be said, with the sort of boots and the dress and that part with the skipping and that high note, or rather the long note that she did. Deary me, very repetitive this song. Co-written by the co-host of the previous year's competition in Kiev. 7th place, 145 points, really not bad. 7th in the semi-final. Yes, repetitive, but good. And the UK, I've gone with Molly Smitten-Downs, who I think has done very little of note since then. Children of the Universe, the British entry in 2014, 17th place, 40 points, 16th with the juries, 21st with the public, not a surprise. Closed the Copenhagen contest. Wasn't such a fan of her outfit. But the staging wasn't too bad. That falling rain pyrotechnic effect at the end. This was expected to do very well. The UK had an internal choice. It was on what's known as the BBC Red Button, and she just sort of came out of nowhere, this unknown singer, and people really enjoyed it actually. And something tells me the UK should do something like that again. Just pick somebody unknown and suddenly thrust them into the spotlight. We'll see what happens moving forwards. But anyway, this song, not bad, one of my favourites, and there it was actually my winner for a long time. That's it. Long video, 40 minutes. Let me know your thoughts. They are underrated gems, ladies and gentlemen, for every country that has participated this century so far. And in terms of the most underrated, personally I would go with Sweden 2010, but I definitely think you could make a case for Should Have Known Better for Denmark, A Matter of Time for Belgium, Blackbird for Finland, Better Love for Greece, Playing with Numbers for Ireland, No Degree of Separation for Italy, Chameleon for Malta, certainly U Jardim for Portugal, Horeroni for Slovakia, Verjamem for Slovenia. So many great songs there that maybe should have just done that little better on the night. Let me know what you think. Feel free to make your own video like this. As I've said before in recent videos, in September things are changing for me a little bit. Won't have as much time to film, but I will still try and make videos every now and then. If there's any video you want me to make very soon, let me know. A review of an older contest, something about Junior Eurovision, whatever it is, let me know. Very much appreciated. That's it. Apologies if the quality wasn't that great. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Roll on Eurovision 2021. By Jove, we need it. Take care of yourselves and bye for now.